So it's Thanksgiving in Louisiana, so that's November. I'm like 9 years old, and we're at my grandparents' house where all the holidays take place. Table is set with, staples. There's the turkey, there's the candied yams with the roasted marshmallows on top. And my mother's annual contribution, which I will try this year, is her broccoli and cheese casserole. Now, to get me excited about it, she's decided, okay, we're gonna get him in on the creation process. So my job is to crush the Ritz crackers. They're in a plastic bag. I've got a rolling pin, and I am smashing them to powder. And she says, okay, wait, no, we need some bigger pieces. I don't know that texture is a big part of cuisine, and that sandy is not a crowd pleaser. And the kitchen is sort of filled with this overwhelming odor of boiling broccoli. It's green and bitter, and I hate it, and I am dreading tasting this thing. But that's later. And the third ingredient of this casserole is Velveeta. Right. I should have said cheese product, broccoli and cheese product. But Velveeta was a staple in our house. Later, I would learn to make my first homemade mac and cheese with Velveeta. Later, I would go to university, and my beloved would be Velveeta, shells and cheese. And then I would trade the Velveeta for Kraft Dinner when I came to Canada. But so this isn't the first time my mom has tried to get me to try things, because I don't eat enough vegetables. Corn doesn't count, apparently. So we're at this crawfish boil, which happens fairly frequently in Louisiana. There are these long picnic tables with these tarps on. They're like tablecloths, but they look like tarps. And the crawfish. So imagine a little lobster. It's kind of like brownish, gray, like muddy. They call them mud bugs. They live in the mud. They come in this woven plastic purple sack, and they're kind of like moving around in there. And then they go into this big metal pot, and I think it's like propane. I don't know how that works. But you don't want to be downwind of this pot, because it is an overwhelming scent coming up. It's very, very earthy, maybe boggy, kind of fishy. I don't like fish. I like fish sticks, but that's the chicken tenders of the sea. So we're at this crawfish boil, and when they're ready, they dump them out onto the tables, and it's this sea of like red and yellow, because there's corn on the cob in there, and you dive in, and there's this ritual where you crack them, you twist them, you pull them apart, you fish out this tiny little nugget of meat, which seems like way too much effort. Optionally, you can suck on the heads. I have never tasted crawfish, because this entire thing seems revolting to me, and the smell is really giving me a headache, and my mom gives me a piece of corn on the cob, and I bite it, but it tastes like everything smells, because of course it was cooked in the same water. It's terrible. No one tells me I'm not a real Cajun, but I feel like I'm not a real Cajun. I don't even have a French name. Rowland, what is that? I got that from my father, who's also trying to get me to try new things. So my sibling and I visit him maybe once a year, because my parents separated when we were young. Other story. So we're visiting him at this woman Mary's house. It's a big house. I don't think it's in Louisiana, because there's snow outside. So we go, and her teenage daughter's like, oh, you have to come see our fireplace. And okay, like, it's big, whatever, it's not lit. I'm not impressed. Then they press this button, and whoosh, this inferno flares up, and I go running out, no boots, no shoe, no coat, no nothing, and I'm clinging to this fence, and my father has to pry my fingers off individually. The next morning, Mary serves us breakfast. It's Cheerios. Yay, I like Cheerios. I am a sugar cereal guy. I'm also a fries and chicken tenders guy, but sugar cereal. Take a big mouthful. It tastes like cardboard. These are adult Cheerios. This is not the honey nut or apple cinnamon experience that I was expecting, and I slow down immediately, because once my brain has decided that it's gross, that's it. I can't do it. My dad has told me all these stories of like, oh, he just powered through, because it's better to be polite to your host than to put something in your mouth that makes you want to die, but whatever, it's not me. So Mary sees that I've slowed down, and she's like, if you don't finish those Cheerios, you're going in the fireplace. Thanks, Mary. So my dad takes us to Dairy Queen, and my favorite is the Oreo Blizzard. It's wonderful, the sweet ice cream, the crunchy cookie, it's amazing. So I'm taking a few bites, and on my third bite, I crunch into something that is not delicious cookie. My mouth fills with saliva and this acrid taste, and it's an onion. And I can't say anything, because I have to be polite. I mean, I know my dad didn't slave over a stove to make me this wonderful homemade meal, but, better be polite. So I'm eating, and I'm hoping that each next bite is going to clear this awful taste from my mouth, and I get to the bottom of the cup, and it still is awful. But back to the broccoli casserole. So it's there on the table, it's in front of me, but it feels like it's looming above me, and I'm sweating. I can't smell the boiling broccoli, but I can smell the boiling broccoli. And so I take a smaller than usual portion, and I take a smaller than usual bite onto my fork. But there's vegetable, cheese product, cracker. I put it in my mouth before I can think any further, and I chew. Velveeta's nice. Then there's the buttery crunch of the Ritz cracker. Broccoli. It's not soft, but it's not firm. It's a weird consistency, and I'm freaking out. Saliva's flooding my mouth. I throw up on the table. My mom says, "Are you okay? Let's get you to the bathroom. Let's get you cleaned up." And I've failed. I feel miserable, but I also know I'm not going to have to put another bite of that dish in my mouth. Now, some many years later, 30-ish years later, I'm in my 30s. I decide, hey, maybe it's time I start answering that question. Do I not like it, or is it that I've tried it and it's gross? Have I just made up in my head that I don't like it? So I'm trying to repair my relationship with food. I don't cook much, so I want to make something that doesn't come from a cardboard box. So I look to meal kits. Cook It, Chef's Plate, good food. They all come in cardboard boxes, actually, but you pick your recipes. So you can start with what's familiar. You can start challenging yourself. So there's this mac and cheese. Fine, love it. Velveeta does not appear on the ingredients list. Broccoli does, and I think, okay, maybe this time, maybe if I am choosing broccoli, maybe it'll taste better. So I get the meal, and it's great. The macaroni is these cute little spirals. The cheese is actually made by melting cheese into cream on a pan. Nice. And as the broccoli, which is not boiled, it is roasted. It is on parchment paper on a cookie sheet, drizzled with oil, salt, and pepper. I tossed it. I washed my hands immediately after because I can't have that icky feeling. I put it in the oven, and so the odor is filling my kitchen, but not in the same way as the yes, it's earthy. Maybe it's a little bitter, but it kind of smells appetizing. And when I take it out and I mix it in, I notice the florets have gotten this cute little crispiness on some of the edges. And I take a big old bite. And I love it. Thanks, meal kits.